Welcome to Dowsing for Earth Energies, a series of videos that will open your heart and mind to the wonders of energy all around you. Energy that created us and sustains everything in existence. In this series, you will learn how to recognize that energy in a way that will open new possibilities for interacting with life itself. Life is a journey of discovery. Embrace the mystery. What do we mean when we talk about dowsing for Earth energy? How does it work? Although no one can answer that question finally and unequivocally, there seems to be a gathering consensus among dowsers that is both highly sophisticated and yet very simple to understand. Ancient folklore, brain research, and quantum physics seem to have come together to offer an elegant hypothesis that goes something like this. On June 30th, 1905, Albert Einstein, a former patent clerk, submitted a paper on mass energy equivalence that, when published, told the world that mass and energy are the same thing. This was the famous equation E equals mc squared. It says that energy, that's E, equals or is the same as mass, that's m times the speed of light, c, squared or multiplied by itself. It's probably the most famous and accepted equation in physics. What it means is that mass is the physical manifestation of energy in motion. For now, it's enough to know that your body, along with every other material thing in the universe, be it rock, plant, animal, planet, moon, or sun, consists of mass. That is, everything is made of atoms, particles, and even subatomic particles, or particles that are smaller than atoms. And this mass equals or is the same as energy. They are two forms of the same thing. The closer you look, the farther down you go, the less you can see. Skin consists of cells, for instance. You can see these and even vacuum them up every day when they slough off your skin. But cells consist of atoms. Atoms consist of particles. Eventually, you get down to nothing. That's right, nothing. Keep peeling away the skin of the onion, and what do you find at the bottom? Nothing. You are something that is made up of nothing. Now, there are many who will scoff at these words and say, I know what I see. No one will ever convince them that the world may be, at bottom, completely different than it appears. That it is really an illusion that they have bought into. It is difficult to grasp that Einstein was saying that mass is nothing more than a three-dimensional manifestation of energy, but such is the power our senses have over us. How strange it is that truth itself appears as an illusion. Doubters have a point, though. Even if we are made up of nothing but energy vibrating at the speed of light squared, so what? We still have to live in this world, even if it only feels like it's real. We still have to follow those feelings. Gravity is still gravity. Hunger is still hunger. Death still awaits us all. Here's the point. Like it or not, realize it or not, believe it or not, we live in and consist of a cosmic sea of energy. Energy is everything. Asking whether we recognize it or not is like asking a fish if it believes in water, or asking a flower if it believes in air. But we really can't live our daily lives if we're constantly thinking about all this. It's just too complex. So our brains have learned to deal with the world in what seems to us to be rational. We take in certain bandwidths of energy and we filter out the rest. Our eyes, for instance, see light waves that range through a spectrum of red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet. That doesn't mean we see the entire range of light. We know that light waves range way above what we can see and way below. Visible light, as a matter of fact, is only a very narrow band of the entire spectrum. It's the same with sound. Dogs, for example, hear whistles that sound way above what we can hear, while whales converse in sound far below us, far below our range of hearing. Ultrasound and subsonic sound is real. It surrounds us. It fills our world. Our senses just don't perceive it. That doesn't mean we can't perceive these other wavelengths of sound. They are there, after all, and we constantly walk through them. It's just that sometime in our evolutionary past, we developed in such a way that our brains don't recognize them, so they don't register on our consciousness. If our physical equipment ever had been sensitive enough to register sensations beyond the present familiar wavelengths, it isn't anymore. So we need technology to register microwaves or subsonic sound. Besides that, in many cases, when it comes to perceiving such things, a lifetime of experience has taught us to ignore them, because we don't need such sensitive perceptions. We filter out that which we don't use. Eventually, the ability to perceive wavelengths atrophies, so we don't even use the abilities we do have. This brings us to a quick study of how we perceive things. Simply put, the human brain is divided into two hemispheres. Now, to vastly simplify a compelling theory, the right hemisphere, or right brain, is in charge of things like feelings, emotions, intuition, and our emotional response to art and music. This is the part of the brain that seems to concoct wild, symbolic dreams, for instance, or appreciate beautiful music or art without being able to quite express why it is beautiful. But have you ever noticed in a dream, for instance, that you may be given a book, be able to see the words on a written page, but be unable to read them? That's because the left hemisphere of the brain is the one in charge of things like reading, science, and math. That's our practical, down-to-earth side. It is logical and scientific. During dreams, it is either asleep or relegated to the background, mostly out of use. In order for us to perceive something in its entirety, the hemispheres have to work together. The right hemisphere can simply appreciate a Beethoven symphony, for instance, but the left hemisphere will try to explain why it's beautiful. Put simply, the right hemisphere perceives. The left hemisphere translates that perception into knowledge. We can never really describe a sunset, for example. All we can say is what the sunset is like. Now we come to the crux of what dowsing might be. It seems to be a way to transfer intuition into waking consciousness. What is intuition? Simply put, it's the process by which right brain hemisphere experiences are translated into left brain hemisphere consciousness. Many believe this is exactly how dowsing works. There's nothing magic in the dowsing rods themselves. They are not moved by mystical forces from paranormal realms. They are the instrument by which the music of the spheres is translated into visible signals. The body, a receptor for consciousness itself, experiences something below, maybe even above, the level of conscious thought. By concentrating on the rods in their hands, dowsers see those feelings converted into a visible sign. The rods tell them what it was that they were experiencing, which didn't register within the left hemisphere of their brains. The dowsers read the energy through which they move, even though they are not fully conscious of it. According to this theory, then, dowsing rods are a gauge, a visible way to register an impression of energy all around you, even though it is not consciously perceived and thus translated by your left brain's language skills. They are tools for bringing information from the intuitive or subconscious senses to the attention of the rational mind. Think of it in this way. Those of you old enough to remember when television consisted of a small black and white box with rabbit ear antennas on the top probably also remember a time when you discovered that if you stood in a certain spot with the antenna in your hand, the picture improved. What was happening? Well, your body was serving as an antenna. It was picking up the broadcast waves and transferring them to the TV set. Until you saw this demonstrated on the screen, you had no idea that the very air you breathed was awash with television signals, that they were in effect going right through you all the time. Then the TV became, in effect, your dowsing rod. It proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that unseen forces filled your environment. You could see them right there on the television screen. In the left hemisphere of your brain, you weren't consciously aware of any such broadcast waves, but your body knew they were there and proved it the first chance they got. It showed them on TV. In the case of TV and radio band signals, technology has simply produced an electronic dowsing rod. But how do we learn to recognize that energy? One way is to follow the tracks laid down by our ancestors, who, before we paved our way to the 21st century, seem to have had a much closer relationship with the earth than we do. They left markers that still stand and beckon us forward. That's where we'll go in our next segment.
Singing to the world, it's time we let the Spirit come in. Let Him come on in, I'm singing to the world. Everybody's caught in the spin. Look at where we've been running around, year after year, blinded with pride, blinded with fear. But it's daybreak, if you wanna believe it can be daybreak. It's no time to grieve, said it's daybreak. If you'll only believe and let it shine, shine, shine all around.